Came with an unusual caveat, a warning delivered in hushed tones by his superior. Under no circumstances are you to harm the human. Is that clear, Captain? Erwinin had scoffed at the time. Valorians were apex predators, their claws and teeth unmatched in close combat. The idea of being wary of a species as young and frail as humans seemed laughable. Yet here he was, and the phrase echoed across the galaxy like a warning and a promise. We don't kill humans. But no one ever explained why. The Arcathis system was as close to neutral ground as the galaxy allowed. Its twin suns bathed the barren moons in golden light, and its spaceports bustled with representatives from dozens of species. Merchants, diplomats, and mercenaries shared the corridors, trading goods and whispers in equal measure. Captain Tierwenen of the Valorian Protectorate leaned against a docking platform, his scaled arms crossed over his chest. His mission was simple: locate the human fugitive and bring them back alive. His orders, how easy as he scanned the bustling spaceport. His crew had intercepted a distress signal. A human freighter, the Solstice Horizon, had been attacked by an unknown raiding party. The ship's beacon had been tracked to Arcathis, and the lone survivor had gone to ground. Tierwenen's orders were clear: find the human before anyone else did. The crowd parted as a towering Krax, a hulking four-armed species known for their brute strength, stomped into view. Tierwenen's hand instinctively moved to the weapon at his hip. The Krax was dragging a figure behind him, a limp form barely recognizable beneath the grime and torn clothing. It was the human. Found your fugitive, the Krax growled, his voice like grinding metal. I figured you'd want the bounty. Tierwenen's heart raced as he stepped forward. The human was unconscious but alive. He waved the Krax away, motioning for his crew to take the fugitive aboard their ship. The Krax hesitated, his eyes narrowing. Funny thing about humans, he rumbled. Everyone's afraid of them, but no one will say why. Tierwenen didn't answer. He didn't know the answer himself. The galaxy's unspoken rule, we don't kill humans, was as old as humanity's entry into the interstellar stage. It wasn't a law codified by any council or treaty, yet every species adhered to it. Those who didn't rarely survive to explain their mistake. The Solstice Horizon survivor, identified as Lieutenant Aaron Voss, awoke in the medbay of Tierwenen's ship. Her eyes darted around the sterile room, settling on the Valorian captain standing by the door. Where am I? She croaked, her voice hoarse. Aboard the Dagger's Edge, Tierwenen replied. You're safe for now, but you've made powerful enemies. Why were you attacked? Voss hesitated, her gaze hardening. Classified, she said curtly. Tierwenen's tail lashed in frustration. Classified or not, you're a target. If I'm going to keep you alive, I need to know what we're up against. Voss studied him for a long moment before sighing. The raiders were after a data core we recovered. It contained sensitive information about an ancient artifact. Something dangerous. Tierwenen's scales prickled. Artifacts were bad news. Every species had stories of ancient relics that brought ruin upon those who sought them. If the humans had found something, it explained the raiders' interest, and the Council's unusual caution. And the data core? He pressed. Destroyed, Voss said. But that won't stop them. They think I know where the artifact is. Tierwenen cursed under his breath. Protecting a human fugitive was one thing. Protecting one with a target on their back from artifact hunters was another. The Dagger's Edge departed Arcathis under the cover of darkness, its stealth systems engaged. Tierwenen ordered his crew to remain on high alert. The raiders wouldn't give up easily, and the presence of a human on board only increased the risk. In the days that followed, Tierwenen observed Voss closely. Despite her injuries, she carried herself with a quiet determination that unnerved him. She trained in the ship's gym, using makeshift weights to rebuild her strength. She studied star charts with an intensity that suggested she wasn't just planning an escape, she was planning a counterattack. One evening, Tierwenen found her in the galley, staring out at the stars. He approached cautiously, his tail flicking in curiosity. You're not what I expected, he admitted. Voss glanced at him, her expression unreadable. What did you expect? A scared survivor, Tierwenen said. Not a soldier preparing for war. She smirked faintly. Humans don't back down easily. You should know that by now. Why doesn't the galaxy kill humans? Tierwenen asked suddenly, the question tumbling out before he could stop himself. Voss's smile faded. She looked back at the stars, her voice barely above a whisper. Because they've tried. The answer chilled Tierwenen to his core. He had heard rumors of past conflicts, of species that sought to eliminate humanity before they became a threat. The stories always ended the same way, with the aggressors vanishing from history. But why? What made humans so resilient? So dangerous? Durenin didn't have time to dwell on the question. The ship's alarms blared, jolting him from his thoughts. The bridge erupted in chaos as his crew scrambled to identify the threat. Incoming vessels, the helmsman reported. 6 signatures, raiders? Durenin's claws tightened around the armrest of his chair. Battle stations. Prepare to engage. As the dagger's edge plunged into battle, Durenin couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Humanity's secrets ran deep, and he was about to learn just how far the galaxy's most enigmatic species would go to survive. As the raiders closed in, Lieutenant Aaron Voss realized this battle wasn't just about survival. It was about keeping humanity's most dangerous secret buried in the void. The first shot rocked the dagger's edge, sending crew members tumbling. Captain Durenin's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Return fire. Evasive maneuvers. The sleek Valorian vessel veered sharply, its engine screaming as it dodged a barrage of plasma bolts. The raiders weren't holding back. Their ships, a ragtag fleet of mismatched designs, formed a deadly net around the dagger's edge. In the med bay, Voss strapped herself into a seat, her face a mask of grim determination. The distant hum of the ship's shields failing sent a chill down her spine. She knew she couldn't stay idle. Her training as a soldier had taught her that survival wasn't passive, it was earned. I need to get to the bridge, she muttered to herself. Ignoring her injuries, she made her way through the narrow corridors, bracing against the walls as the ship shuddered under fire. When she reached the bridge, she found Durenin barking orders, his crew moving with practiced efficiency. What are you doing here? Durenin demanded, his eyes narrowing at her. Helping, Voss replied, sliding into an empty station. She quickly analyzed the tactical readouts. Their formation has a weak point at the aft. If we can punch through, we might escape. Durenin's tail flicked in irritation, but he couldn't deny the logic. Helmsman, adjust course. Target their aft line. The dagger's edge surged forward, its weapons blazing. The ship's cannons unleashed a devastating volley, tearing through one of the raiders' ships. The explosion lit up the void, scattering debris. But the remaining raiders pressed on, their ferocity undiminished. Voss clenched her fists as she realized the truth. They weren't here to disable the ship, they were here to kill her. In the heart of the battle, Durenin couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that this skirmish was about more than a mere fugitive. The raiders' aggression was unrelenting, their coordination too precise for a simple bounty hunt. Why are they so desperate to capture you? He growled, his gaze fixed on Voss. It's not just about me, she admitted. It's about what I know. Durenin's claws tightened on the armrest of his chair. Then start talking. What aren't you telling me? Voss hesitated, then took a deep breath. There's a reason the galaxy fears us, Captain. It's not just our history of warfare or our adaptability. It's something older, something buried in our past. Go on, Durenin urged. Before humanity joined the galactic stage, we encountered things. Ancient technologies, remnants of civilizations that predate the Council itself. We learned from them, but we also learned to fear them. Some of those artifacts were too dangerous to leave intact. Durenin's scales rippled with unease. And the artifact the raiders are after? It's one of them, Voss admitted. A weapon unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. The data core we recovered contained its coordinates. If it falls into the wrong hands... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Durenin understood. This wasn't just about her survival, it was about preventing a galactic catastrophe. The ship's comms crackled to life, interrupting their conversation. Unidentified vessel, surrender the human or be destroyed. The voice was cold, mechanical, devoid of mercy. Durenin glanced at Voss, whose jaw tightened. They won't stop, she said. Not until they have what they want. Then we'll make them stop, Durenin declared, his voice firm. Helmsman, prepare for a counteroffensive. All hands to battle stations. Voss raised an eyebrow. You're willing to fight for me? I'm not doing this for you, Durenin said. I'm doing it because whatever secret humanity is hiding, it's better off staying buried. The dagger's edge pivoted sharply, its engines flaring as it accelerated toward the raiders. The ship's weapons unleashed a torrent of fire, forcing the enemy to scatter. Voss worked quickly at her station, rerouting power to the shields and coordinating targeting systems. We can't win this, she said. Not in a straight fight. Then what do you suggest? Durenin asked. Voss's eyes gleamed with a mixture of determination and defiance. We take the fight to them. As the battle raged on, Voss's plan took shape. The dagger's edge would feign a retreat, drawing the raiders into a narrow asteroid field where their superior numbers would become a liability. It was a risky maneuver, but Tyrrell knew it was their best chance. "You'd make a good Valorian," he remarked as he gave the order to execute the plan. "I'll take that as a compliment," Voss replied with a faint smirk. The ship plunged into the asteroid field, its hull skimming dangerously close to jagged rocks. The raiders followed, their pursuit relentless. But as the field grew denser, their formation began to falter. The dagger's edge turned sharply, its cannons targeting the nearest raider ship. The explosion sent a shockwave through the field, triggering a cascade of collisions. One by one the raiders fell, their ships reduced to wreckage. When the dust settled, only the dagger's edge remained. The crew erupted in cheers, but Tyrrell's expression remained grim. He knew this victory was only temporary. The raiders were just the beginning. He turned to Voss. "If we're going to survive this, I need to know everything. No more secrets." Voss nodded, her gaze steady. "Then it's time you learned why the galaxy doesn't kill humans?"